Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Philippe will continue because he has already attended one session. So, as everybody knows, this KLF, this edition of Kerala Literature Festival, we have France as the guest of honor. So, Malayalam language and literature, maybe for your information I'm saying, it is highly influenced by French literature and language. One translation of in advance, I'm saying an apology because my pronunciation will be a little bit outrageous. So kindly bear with me. So Les Miserable's translation came in 1925 in Malayalam, which enriched and encouraged so many generations of our writers in Kerala. So that's the background of this session. So how influential was French in our literature, language and literature, that if we will discuss this topic from two different perspectives. One, a mainland writer from France and our own writer who has a very strong French connection. So my first question to Mr. Philippe Claudel is, traditionally, we have been influenced by the French. French has been a noble language for the aristocracy even before the French Revolution. And we have also been benefited from the French. Nowadays, how influential is French? Are they still holding the sway over the other languages, across the world? Are you still holding the same sway in the current contemporary French literature? That's what I'm asking first.
If I have understood, you ask me the panorama today of the influence of the French literature around the world. Yeah.
Because it was influential.
Yeah. So yes, we are different culture in India, in France, in other country, and traditionally in France, since maybe 1,000 years, we have a story of literature, and we have different ways of writing poems, plays, novels, essay, etc. And with happening of the French Revolution, at this time, it was a big hope for different countries around the world, and the theories, the ideas of different French writers, philosophers of century of lights, le siècle des Lumières, Montesquieu, Rousseau, Voltaire, were a very important figure in France, but in all of the world too. And after, during the 19th century, if I wanted to propose just one name, important in France, but around the world too, it was maybe Victor Hugo. Because at the same time, Hugo was a great poet, a wonderful writer, political man, and a figure of dignity, of humanity, of human rights, And it's a reason why maybe around the world, it's maybe the most famous French writer during this 19th century, sorry. And after, during the 20th century, I think there is a different moment of French literature, French school, like surrealism. It's important. Existentialism, very important too. Yeah? And so artists like André Breton, Paul Éluard, poems, poetry, and for the plays, Ionesco, Beckett, and for the novels and essays, Albert Camus, philosophers like Sartre, it's a big influence in France and other world too. And after a different school of literature like nouveau roman, new novels with Alain Robbe-Grillet, ou Nathalie Sarraute, Marguerite Duras, etc., etc. So we have the chance to have this legacy
What?
It's a very long story, but now
Sorry
you
for
know,
intervening.
it's
Yeah.
today.
Yes.
I mean, we are too very modest, very modest. France is a cultural country with this historical legacy, but at the same time we are a small country. And the fact is today the most important language is the English language. It's the English language,
Yes.
you know,
Naturally.
around the world. And when do you have a language important like English, in the same times you have a culture with it. No?
Not only
and,
that, even
there is a dictator of English language and English culture, and we feel that today. It's a reason why maybe today the influence of French literature is less important than in the past.
even your colonies are slowly gaining more freedom from your culture, and it seems from like
But
Algeria.
we have the chance with the French language. The French language is spoken in France, but it's a different country too. In the north of Africa,
Yes.
the middle of Africa, in the Caribbean Sea, in the North America, in Quebec, etc. We have a different diaspora with this language.
know.
And in the same time, we have a lot of wonderful writers now who use this French language, but with another music. And at the beginning, the people say that I am member of Goncourt Prize, and the last year, the winner of the Goncourt Prize is the most important prize in France, you know. And the last year, the winner was Kamel Daoud. It was an Algerian writer who write in French. A few years ago, it was Mohamed Mbougassar, the winner of the Goncourt Prize. Mohamed Mbougassar was born in Senegal, you know. The French literature, it's a francophone literature. It's not only in the French territory, but it's a literature in France, in the north of Africa, in Quebec, in the Caribbean Sea, in Haiti, etc., etc.
So coming back to M. Mukundan, because this is a very interesting case. M. Mukundan Mukundan was born and raised in French territory of Mahi, which is some 60 kilometers away from here. It is one of the few territories French had in India, because they didn't have many gains because France was the last superpower that came to India for colonizing. So he was born and raised in Mahi, sandwiched between British Malabar. He was raised there, and at the age of 12, French left. His first novel, not first novel, his iconic novel on the banks of Mayeri was a portrait of the independence struggle to oust France. Then after that, he went to Delhi, and he lived and worked for another small French territory, which is your embassy. He was the cultural attaché there. So he can at least elaborate how our language, Malayalam language and literature, has been influenced by not only his own generation, the generation prior to his and even after that, modernism, postmodernism, even. Yeah, especially modernism was greatly influenced by French writers like Sartre, Camus, Bouet.
Well, that's a very difficult question. But we have always been under the influence of France. It started almost 100 years ago when Victor Hugo's novel Les Miserables was translated in Malayalam and published here. And it was instantly a big success. People started reading it, discussing it. The main reason is that, we Malayalis, there are certain themes, certain values which we cherish always. These are, for example, humanity, or justice or redemption. So in Victor Hugo's novel, we find these ideas, especially justice, question of justice, and the possibility of redemption. And these are the themes very close to our heart for Malayalis. That's why we loved Victor Hugo so much. You know? It's not only because of its the narrative style or the characters, but because of these themes inherent in the novel, which are very which we value a lot. That is how it started. The influence. And you won't believe Victor Hugo is a common name. Sometimes we say that he is much more famous here in Kerala than in France. And somebody recently told me that in France, everybody is forgetting Victor Hugo. I don't know. You know it better. So they are forgetting Victor Hugo. But here in Kerala, we are not only forgetting him, it's far from forgotten. And just last week, there was a playwright, a writer who writes for theatre. He wrote an adaptation of Victor Hugo's novel, Les Miserables, to theatre, and he published it. So it happened just 1 week or 2 weeks ago. That means Victor Hugo is still very much alive here. So, and at the same time, when my generation of writers, when we started writing, of course we cherish the great themes which resonate in his novel, like as I said, this question of justice and redemption, all that. We were not satisfied with that. We wanted to go much beyond. For example, the question of identity, or even the futility of living. And when we started writing about that, life is meaningless, and then everybody said that, that is a French influence. But French influence of Sartre or Albert Camus. No, it's not that, We believed a generation of the 60s and 70s, and we believed that life is maybe meaningless. And as you said, I loved what you said just now. You said that you're a pessimist. At that time, same time, you're an optimist. So I love that, and I'm more or less like that. I hear everywhere voices of despair. Everywhere we see dark images, but at the end of it, at the end of the tunnel, there's little light. That's what as you said, that is the pessimism. So the legacy of France continues, which started with Victor Hugo, and the time of Sartre and Albert Camus. We accepted them. We were so close enough. We passionately. We didn't see any of them. For example, I didn't see Sartre physically, but I hugged him. I embraced him. I haven't seen him, but they were so important for me. And now, where do we stand? That's what we want to know from writers like you. So after that, after Sartre and Camus, that period, what's going on in France? We look forward. We always need a model. A model to follow, a writer or a thinker or a philosopher. We want to walk in their footsteps. It doesn't mean that we are incapable of creating our own leaders, but France is so close to us. We are so very much alive to what's happening there. So, frankly speaking, I followed Sartre a lot, but now I don't. Because we have to renew yourself always, update. You can't get stuck with a single thinker. So I am looking for someone else to follow. Maybe you could help us. Tell us.
I have a question.
I may ask.
I want to ask something. About the influence of French literature. And three years ago, a French writer won a Nobel Prize, Annie Ernaux, you know. This Nobel Prize of Annie Ernaux was have an impact in India. This writer was very now or not. I wanted to ask you.
She won Nobel Prize.
Yeah, she
Right.
won. She won Nobel
He
Prize.
is very much popular here.
Three years
we
ago.
We know her, and her
Yeah.
books are popular here. Annie Ernaux. While
It's a modest influence, modest impact. It's not a big impact.
big,
Yeah.
perhaps not like a Sartre or Simone, not
Okay,
like
okay.
that. When I was just going through your biographical sketch in the internet, I was surprised that you were an educator of prison inmates. So that helped him to delve deep into the lives, and then even you are saying that you not to be judgmental about people and situations. My question now, because France is not only France, even the bigger scene of Europe, there is a steady ascent of right-wing politicians there. Slowly, they are gaining momentum. They are securing a comfortable majority in many of the places. The France, at the same time, it's a mix of many cultures and languages, nationalities. And France, as we all know, it's a French way of life. It's a peak of freedom, liberty, all those things. Are you losing the kind of principles you are spreading across the world in the present political scenario? Because you are, as a writer, filmmaker, and again, an educator, you may have some more to add to this.
Yeah, you know, for a lot of people around the world, France is a country of the freedom, of the human rights. We have this tradition, but since around 20 years, France has different countries in Europe change, because since war in Libya, in Syria, there is a lot of human movement, migrants, and some people in France are afraid by this wave of migration. Without reason, you know, it's like a phantasm. It's not a reality, this fear, the danger. But at the same time, some people feel that. And there is a different political men and women use this fear to be elected, to have votes. And now, in this moment, I am very not optimistic with my society, because the most important danger is communitarism, you know, because we are not a society for the moment. Society is supposed a common dream. It's important to have in a country a common dream with the respect of our differences, sure. But for the moment, I don't feel this common dream, this desire to build a future together. It's more simple to be against the other than together. And it's a responsibility of the political class to give this hope, this dream to the citizens. It's for the moment, yes, I'm a little bit sad about that. And we try with our novels, with our movies, with our shows to build links between people, but to show that we are together, you know? You are not alone. You are different, sure, but you are my brother, my sister at the same time. And for the moment, it's difficult to do that because, as I say a few minutes ago, there is a temptation of extremism in a political class to give a fire, to put a fire in the society.
Thank you, Philip. I will just have one more question to M. Mukundan because it's a very personal question. This is just imagine, had you not been born in a place called Mahi and had worked in French embassy for such a long time, for decades and more, what would have been the shape of your literature? Because as M. Mukundan, as we all know, he is the tallest writer and at the same time a youngest writer as well. He said he was stuck up in some place. Never. He was always modifying himself. So what would have been the shape of your literature had it not been for this French connection?
You see, the place where I live, it matters a lot for me. So sometimes I wonder whether I belong to any place, any country. So wherever I am, that is my place, that is my country. So right now, if you ask me what is my nationality or what's my country, I will say that my country is KLF, Kerala Literature Festival. So I think that we are losing that notion of belonging, the notion of nationalism, and that we live now in clusters, so many small clusters, not in a great country or not in a great civilization, but we live in clusters, small places or small ideas, and all these clusters make the universe of writer. So I think if coming to your question, if I am not born, I was not born in Mahe, then naturally I shouldn't have written what people celebrate, that famous novel on the banks of the Mayeji. No, I wouldn't have written it, but I would have written something else. Okay? So what matters is, the creativity in you and the passion you have for the writing, and also you should feel an empathy for the oppressed people, the poor people, suffering people who are denied justice. You should feel empathy for them. That matters a lot for me. But without that empathy, I don't think we can write. That's what I think.
Time is almost up. I think we can throw open this session to questions. One or two questions. If you are asking questions, please be brief and precise. Don't narrate things. Yeah, please.
Sir, I am putting a question before M. Mukundan, my most admiring writer, and I admire you very much. But I am telling you, what I am asking you, that you have now completely left the ideological plane of Sartre and Camus and all those people. Why? That is because of the hate, what I'm to say, the critical aspects and critical developments that have taken place. That was the reason, or any other reason that you are you departed from the ideology of Sartre and Camus. You just now said it. Can you explain it in detail?
You see, as I said, I believe in self-renewal. You see, you have to renew yourself. So all this, there is no last words. Like writer's journey, there is no last word. There is no model that is lasting. So naturally, we come across great thinkers or writers, but they are not there to influence us for the entire life. So we look forward to something new. The journey goes on. So the great thinkers you admire a lot, but you have to give them up and look forward to something new. This is what I believe, and that is writers should never get stuck somewhere, whether it's thinker or a philosopher or a novelist. No, you shouldn't get stuck there. I am very much, I try very much for that, to not to get myself imprisoned in some idea or some philosophy or in some writings. This is what you wanted to know? അല്ല ഇതല്ലേ പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താ പറയുക
Can you repeat this? Come again, please. Huh? Do you want to throw it away? That's what he's asking.
You throw it away, that's
No
not a
question.
good usage. You give up, so many things. You can't get stuck. You cannot carry the legacy forever, So you can't say that you are throwing up. You have used them. You have internalized them. You have enriched yourself. Then, when you find that these are not satisfying you anymore, then you look for something new. Okay? I think this is what you wanted to know.
Many writerly lives of Mukundan in a single life. Any more one question we can take. You may ask one question to Mr. Philippe.
I am always here, so he will go away. So ask him questions.
Just give me a microphone. Give. Over.
Hello. Moderator, my question is to Mr. Philippe. Can you explain the condition of French poetry at present? French poetry or the literature? Apart from the writings of Sartre, Camus, that stage.
No, it's not clear. Actually, are you asking French poetry?
Yeah, French poetry. What is the contemporary French poetry says? What is the main focus point of French poetry or novel? You can say of novel also.
He's asking what is the state of contemporary French poetry.
Panorama of French poetry.
Yes. No.
Yeah, apart from the literature,
Yes.
when
Yes.
Sartre, Camus were writing.
Yes, the poetry is always and still important in France, but unfortunately it's very hard to be a poet in France now because there is not a lot of readers, and it's strange because we are a very big and famous country of poetry since a lot of centuries, but at the same time, if you are a poet today, you release your book of poems, maybe the hope is to have 200, 300, 400 readers, 400 sales of your books. It's nothing. It's strange because it's not the case in other country in Europe. By example, in Portugal, it's a very beautiful country with a very old and famous literature. But the destiny of poetry is it's great because I remember the wife of my Portuguese publisher. His wife is a poet, and when she composed a book of poems, she sells maybe around 2,000, 3,000 copies. It's great, but it's not the case in France. But maybe it's the reason, after the Second World War, the way of the French poetry have been many complex formalists and difficult without maybe emotion. And for myself, as a reader of poems, I look for emotions. And now, during the 15th, the 16th, the 70s, the French poetry was too intelligent and too much intelligent and without words. Maybe it's one of the reasons that the audience go very far to the poetry for the moment in France.
I'm sorry, after the session, you can individually ask this. We have already exceeded time, so we conclude or we are winding up the session with the hope that the French literature and culture will continue to inspire us in the years to come as well. Thank you so much. We feel that we have done a little bit of justice to the session. Thank you so much.
And yes, I would like to convey a sincere thanks to Mr. Mukundan and Mr. Philippe Claudel, and also the moderator of our session, Mr. Santhosh Kumar.